It's only after we've lost everything that we're free to do anything. Episode 10 – You're not a snowflake. Hello everyone, and thank you for listening. In the previous episode I said that self-destructive behavior can be salutary, and I think that needs some clarification as it can be easily misunderstood. The opening quote of this episode is taken from the book Fight Club, which most of you probably know. If you haven't seen the movie from 1999, I highly recommend it. In this fiction, self-destruction is not an end, it's actually a process of deconstruction. If they fight, it's not only for the sake of fighting or to feel alive when the scars heal, it's to unlearn what they know and awaken to a new perception of the world. They destroy to recreate, to be reborn. What they want is to be the actors of their own life, but because the system does not allow it, they have to invent their own system with their own rules. In Fight Club, it's actually not the fight that matters, it's the club. The club is like the community they can trust, the one that approves their actions, respects their masculinity, and allows them to become self-aware. Now let's stop a second on one of the main ideas of the novel, which is that the things we own end up owning us. We all know that. We have learned to live with it. We are surrounded by objects that create our routine and make us addicted. The things we own have a deep impact on our identity, and consumerism is based on the fact that we exist through things we actually don't need. But we accept it. It's a lie that most of us subscribe to. So why should we not destroy the things that own us? Why should we depend on things that make us weak? To be honest, I don't really know. Why at some point in history we decided that every natural order was wrong is beyond my understanding. The thirst for power is probably one of the reasons, but it's not only coming from powerful people, it also comes from us because we consent to consumerism. I think comfort is making us doubt ourselves more than we admit. Comfort smothers our primitive instincts, and we often think that we couldn't live without a comfy bed, a hot shower and a nice kitchen. But of course we can. And I'm sure some big companies out there are definitely afraid that we could one day realize that. Because if you don't want a big house or a better car, if you stop believing in the need of health insurance, mortgages, bank accounts, and every obligations that comes with them, our modern society stops working. Greed is the fuel of capitalism. And how do you make people greedy? You scare them. You tell them that without the latest phone, car, or razor, they're lesser than their neighbors. You tell them that as soon as they feel something unusual in their body, they need a pill. And even when everything seems fine, you tell them they need extra vitamins, and also that they should regularly go to the doctors in case something is wrong, because you never know, you might be dying. What Fight Club says is that your biggest fear is a lot more primitive, and you're not aware of it. Your biggest fear is to go in the ring facing another man without anything other than your body and mind to survive. There, you cannot escape, and you have to fight. Once you focus only on this one fear, you realize you actually have to go in the ring, because all your other fears are based on this one. It's the fear of pain and death. Then after taking a few punches in the face, you stop caring so much about appearances, and also about the judgment of people who are not in your club. When you are aware of your primitive nature, you don't need any product to make you feel alive. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that fighting is the only way to feel less enslaved by the modern world. On the contrary, we all have to find our own ring, and in Fight Club, the ring is just an allegory. It can be seen as a cathartic object that channels our fears and makes us forget our excessive need for control. The less we understand ourselves, the more we want the feeling of control. In Fight Club, the narrator is addicted to IKEA, and when he buys the last item he needs to finish one collection, he feels complete. All the objects he owns are not only useful, they define who he is, and when he comes back home after a long trip, he can finally find himself again in the contemplation of all the things he collected. So the process of deconstruction, for him, starts by eliminating this feeling of completion. He destroys everything he owns and finds completion in his new community instead. But destroying what you own is not enough to be reborn and to be able to fully enjoy the present. Because if you consider that most of our addictions come from things we grew up with, then we also need to eliminate the parts of our identity that are attached to those addictions and to those artificial needs and desires. So we have to explore ourselves to discover our true inclinations, because what we have been taught to desire is the things that others have. Our desires don't come from thin air. We imitate and we want what the others have. To eliminate this desire, this jealousy, we need to perceive ourselves differently, and this usually requires a radical change in our life, as it's hard to pinpoint the things that own us, and it's a lot easier to just start from scratch. In each of us, there is an inner fight between instincts and reason, and very often the voice of reason tells us to run away, to go back on the path we already know, where it's safe. In Fight Club, the narrator goes on a path that is unknown and dangerous. He renounces everything he was to be free of desires to which he does not consent. And it takes a lot of courage to do that. And his courage comes from pain, first by observing the pain of others, then later by feeling his own. His radical change goes through pain, and there's a reason for that, because the more we suffer, the better we know how to react to pain, whether it's physical or emotional. The philosophy of Fight Club is mainly based on Stoicism, where you have to put discipline above your emotions to be able to deal with everything life will throw at you. When you don't know yourself, you deny reality. You just cannot accept that something you didn't want actually happened. You run away from the challenges of life. But when you've discovered yourself, when you're fine being alone, and when you know what you need to feel alive, then you become resilient, and you learn to detach yourself from what's going on around you, including the most dramatic events. In Fight Club, the pain is so intense that all other forms of suffering seem trivial in comparison. What we want is different from what we need, and when we only desire the things we truly need, all our other desires become unnecessary. We are brainwashed to believe that to be someone, we need to be successful. And to feed this illusion, we are told that every one of us can do everything, and that we should want to do everything in order to reach the higher steps of the social ladder. But no, you cannot do everything. The chances that you will build the next Tesla are so low that you should try to reach what you can, instead of drowning in ambition. Ambition is often about chasing what the others want. But if you reach your own dreams instead of following what you've been told to follow, you'll feel truly complete. So stop chasing perfection and find a burden that you can bear, because otherwise you will end up sacrificing yourself for an idea that is completely disconnected from your true nature. If you're successful, you could indeed become famous and rich, but the odds are low. And as Christopher Columbus said, money doesn't make us happy, it makes us preoccupied. Don't go under the pressure that is imposed on you. Don't be a victim. And don't believe that if you make enough sacrifices, you'll become someone important. Don't be a hero, but don't be a tyrant either. Just start by being no one and be happy with it, because richness is not about money. You don't need the approval of everyone to forge your identity, and you don't have to be where everyone is to feel that you exist. There are no solutions to our torments. You need to exist for yourself, to enjoy what's left to enjoy, and to accept that you're not always in control of your own life. As they say in Fight Club, we are all part of the same compost heap. And on a cosmic level, there is indeed not much difference between the root of a flower and the heart of a man. If you want to become someone, become yourself. Admire people for their speech, their skills, or their art, but not for their success. Fight Club has often been wrongly labeled as nihilistic. Let's remember that nihilism is the absence of moral values and the belief that life has no purpose. But self-destruction is not nihilistic, at least not as it's depicted in Fight Club. It's actually the contrary. The characters destroy themselves to be completely detached from everything that could enslave them, and their ultimate goal is to find their own purpose. When you're convinced that your life is not sacred and that no one loves you, like in Fight Club, you have to make it sacred yourself, and you have to work on your self-love. There is no remedy or external cure, there is only discipline and resilience. And it's not nihilistic to refuse to believe in false values. It's not nihilistic to stop wanting to be perfect, and it's not nihilistic either to not want to be safe at all times. Many people today are accused of being nihilistic because they don't believe in life anymore and they're supposedly useless to society. But society made them. School produces confusion and creates people who are completely lost. But give them a ring and they will fight and they will rise because they will feel responsible for themselves instead of always feeling like they're manipulated.